Good morning, everyone who's joining us here and online from all over the world. Uh, Thank you for joining us here today for MS Rising. We're honored to be here with you on World MS Day for a conversation that is deeply personal, deeply human, and that we hope is deeply useful. Today is not about pretending MS is easy. It's not. It's not about inspiration that skips over the hard parts. It's about telling the truth about the days our bodies cooperate and those days when they do not. The truth about fear, fatigue, pain, grief, identity, movement, community, and the quiet mental work it takes to keep showing up for a life that may look very different from the one that we imagined. Each person on this panel is living with multiple sclerosis. Each person has had to meet this disease in their own body, in their own mind, and in their own way. And while all of their stories, all of our stories, are very different, there is something powerful that connects us. We are still here, still moving, still adapting, still finding purpose, still rising. And today we will talk about what it means to move with MS, physically, mentally, emotionally, and communally. We will talk about the roadblocks people see and those that they don't. We will talk about what happens when confidence in your body is shaken, when pain steals sleep, when disability shifts your identity, when grief shows up in unexpected places, and when community becomes the hand that helps you take the next step. Our hope is that everyone listening here and around the world, everyone will leave with something real. Not a perfect answer, but a possible one. Not pressure to do more, but permission to begin where you are. Because with MS, rising does not always look like running a marathon, but sometimes it does. Dancing across the floor, lifting a weight, or crossing a finish line. Sometimes rising looks like getting out of bed. Sometimes it looks like asking for help. And sometimes it looks like resting without guilt. And sometimes it looks like believing that even when MS changes the way we move through the world, it does not get to take away the meaning of our movement. So with that, I'm honored to have our incredible panel introduce themselves. So let's start with short intros. So your full name, where you're from, and how long you've been living with MS. Summer, we're going to start with you at the end with that mic that you can pass along.
Can you hear me okay? So I am Summer Banzaf. I'm a physician. I was diagnosed with MS in 2017, 16 weeks before finishing residency. So that's what I've been doing since then, working and living life. Oh, I'm from Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. Gosh.
Sorry.
Summer's from Columbus, Ohio. My name is Brian Wallace. I am from Ohio. I'm up from south of Cleveland, Medina County. And I played football at the University of Michigan. I graduated in 1992, played against the University of Washington in the 1992 Rose Bowl. And 5 years later, in 1997, I was diagnosed with MS and been living that life ever since. 28 years, going on 29 in October. It's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey, but glad to be here. Very, very glad to be here.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Heil, and I'm from Washington State. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2006, but prior to that, I have been running marathons since the year 2000. So I've been doing running marathons for half my life, and yeah, so I'm so happy to be here and excited to learn and share.
My name is Adam Powell. I have run exactly 0 marathons, and I plan to keep it that way. So you can keep doing that. I am from Michigan, and I was diagnosed in 2019.
I am Phoebe Walker, and I was diagnosed in 2001, and I live in Melbourne, Florida. Well, not Melbourne, but most people will recognize it for Melbourne. But so, and was I supposed to answer another question? I'm sorry.
No,
That's me today.
been living.
Oh, yeah, living with it, yeah, since 2001, and it's been a joyful ride.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonathan Carvalho. I am from Massachusetts, kind of near Cape Cod in a little town called Assonet. I was diagnosed in 2022, so I seem to be the baby of the group. I'm a nurse, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. My name is Allie McGuire. I'm from Michigan. I was diagnosed in 2020. And yeah, I have a company called Aware Now. I work to raise awareness for causes, MS being one of them. So very honored to be here and be having this conversation with these amazing people today. Thank you to all of you for traveling from all across the country to be here. Let's start by going back. Let's go back to you, Phoebe, the one who brought all of this and all of us here together. I would like to hear the story about MS Rising and DAMS 411. Please let us know why and what.
Why, what, how? Okay, yay, technology, sorry. Okay, so first and foremost, I started with DAMS 411, and it stands for Dance a Myelin My Shoes. And I got the name actually from Cheryl, who has RAMS, which is Run a Myelin My Shoes. So, but she's the one that got me back active, and I can't talk on something that's higher than my head. So here we go. There's a high dash. Anyway, okay. So, my problem is that in 2006, I lost my eyesight in both eyes. It was completely gone. I only saw black. There was no variation of black. It was solid, and I lost a lot of my physical ability. And when I came back, I said, I wasn't going to stop here. We're going to fight our way back, and we're going to keep going forward, and we're not looking back. And that's what it's been like every day since then. 10 years later, I decided, well, my husband suggested that we do ballroom dancing as a social event to try and get out of the house more. And it took me several attempts to walk through the door. And when I did, I realized at the end of the first lesson that I felt happy. And for those of us with MS, especially at the beginning in our fighting times, happy is kind of one of those words that's difficult to come by. And it was genuine happy. And I continued to dance until COVID happened. When COVID happened and I had to stop dancing, I noticed that everything was getting worse. And so I started doing research, learned the benefits of it, and created DAMS, so that this way I could help individuals with MS to cover the cost of dancing if they have financial constraints. However, and the benefit, I tried to do my best to cover everybody, financial constraints or not, at least for 3 months, so you can try it out. How did MS Rising come from that? I needed something more to help raise awareness for the DAMS that I was working on. And I had been thinking about things, and one afternoon I was incredibly depressed, and I was scrolling through the phone like we do sometimes during that time, and I came across posts from Adam. And Adam is an amazing advocate for MS, and I can't wait for you to hear some of his story. And it triggered in me something that said, when I was newly diagnosed, I wish I had somebody that could help walk me through it and give me hope. Hope is one of those big things that we need. And I wanted to start a movement because when I looked at all of the things that the MS societies offer for people with MS, some of the biggest things they miss out on are the emotional and mental aspects of it. And MS Rising is about that. It's about connection and it's about keeping your body moving, which is something that really helps both of those. And so that's where we're at. And in fact, that's kind of how I came across this entire A-team panel. I mean, I just love it and I can't wait for y'all to hear their stories. But this is why I asked Jonathan here. Jonathan is a psychology nurse, like nurse, we call them. And he is going to give some of his wisdom on some of these thoughts exactly that pertain to our emotional and mental health and community and movement. So I want to thank you, Jonathan, for being here to do this.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be here and with all of you and all of you at home. This is amazing. And happy World MS Day. So I think, you hit the nail on the head that, there is a connection in science that shows that movement and community help MS symptoms, not only physical symptoms, right? We tend to concentrate on the physical symptoms because the physical symptoms of sometimes the outward appearance, but it's really what's happening inside. And I'm going to go through a few things today, but I'm going to focus on two main things. I'm going to focus on movement. I'm going to focus on community and how those help me. And I'm sure the one recurring theme that we hear is how it helps everybody else, how we weren't prepared for the mental aspect of this, along with all the physical stuff that go along with it. So I'm going to talk about movement. And in a lot of the literature that I researched, it says exercise. I don't like the word exercise. The word is movement. It's not exercise, because even small movement, small progress, and that's what it is, the progress, you're seeing progress, can help your mental stability in that. So I'm going to go through, first we're going to talk about depression and the mental side of depression. And I'm going to give a couple of statistics, easy statistics. In the general population, about 8 to 10% of people have a depressive episode in a year. In people living with MS, that jumps to over 50%. Anxiety. The general population experience anxiety about 19%. And that's around 36%. So it all seems to double or more as it goes through. And then let's add in the fatigue, right? Let's talk about fatigue. Fatigue just adds to that, right? And then you feel, well, if nearly 80% of people are living with significant fatigue, and then you have 80%, 36 people having anxiety, and 50% having a depressive episode, where are we at there? Right? Let's look at it. And there's one statement that I want everybody to remember, because we're going to keep going back to it. And the statement is, an individual's perception is their reality. So how you perceive it will be very different than somebody else. And that's different for every one of us that are in this room and at home. So just as we go through this, remember, an individual's perception is their reality. And it's something to think about. So let's talk about it says exercise in my thing, but we're going to talk about movement. We're going to keep calling it movement. We're not going to call it. And it focuses around your mental health, your mood, your quality of life, and your social well-being. And all of those things together will help you fight this awful disease that we call MS, and it affects us differently in every one of us. And we all know that, right? But we all seem to have these common themes that go along with it. Movement can help with depression. It can help with anxiety. It can help with fatigue. And the fatigue is the one most debilitating symptom that everybody talks about. And that's where movement can happen. And that's where movement helps. Small incremental changes, as small as they are, you'll see a difference. And you'll start getting those neurotransmitters going. And those neurotransmitters start going. And then next thing you know, you may not, it might be so small that nobody notices it, but you'll notice it. And those small changes will turn into big changes. And the big changes will be your mental health and being able to concentrate and fight this awful disease. So I want you to remember perception, individual's perception is their reality. So if they're perceiving it differently, then their reality will change with it. And there's many different ways that you can do this. So starting with movement, whether it be moving in your chair, whether it be walking 10 feet, whether it be walking 5 feet, whatever it may be, it's going to look different for every single one of us. Some are going to be able to run a marathon, which I'll never be able to do either, by the way. But some of us, it's walking to the end of the room and back, and it's individualized. Individualized care means individualized care. Patient-centered care means patient-centered care. And then a lot of times, I feel, and I think my other panel members will too, it does get lacking in the beginning of diagnosis because we're so concentrated on fixing the physical symptoms that we don't go back and look at the mental symptoms, which needed to happen right off the bat.
Yeah.
And then once you get through that acute phase, then comes the chronic phase, right? Because we know we're not going to get better, right? We may improve, but there is no cure, as they say. And I'm going to put that in quotation marks because I think that's very subjective too. But it's important to remember that it's small incremental changes that improve your health, your perception, because your perception is what's going to be the big changer. So let's talk about, it's about intensity and not about intensity. So again, not about exercise. It's about consistency. It's about showing up every day. It's about showing up with the mindset every day to be able to do this. It can do resilience, emotional well-being, coping ability, and long-term health outcomes. Again, your perception is your reality. Because if you perceive it, then the mind has a powerful way of making it happen. It really does. And you're going to hear that up and down this panel all day long. So where can you find community? Where can you find getting exercise? Where can you find all these things? Well, luckily, we're here today online. 10 years ago, this wasn't like this. You can find community if you need it. And that may look very different for everybody too. You have to find what works for you. And then you have to find your provider that's willing to work with you to do that if you need their help. We all talk about getting gaslit or this or that. That's a big one. I hear that word a lot. Well, it's us that can stop that. And our providers work for us. And we need to direct our own care and take our own initiatives to make that happen. So movement helps mental health, but community helps people stick with it. And why does it help? Why do we help it stick with it? Because what is community? Community has been throughout all of time, right? Whether you're part of this club or you're part of this group, there are two parts of community that I look at it as. One is a sense of belonging, and one is a common theme. And that's usually what builds a community, is you have a sense of belonging. As social human beings, as human beings are, we want to be social. But we also have to have a common bond. We have to want the same things. I think I've said it 100 times since I've gotten MS. This is a club I never wanted to belong to, but I'm so glad that I am. Because this is a community. This has helped me so much. I spent my entire career in the psychiatric mental health field. I thought I knew it. I was like, yeah, all right. I get MS. It's a big life-changing condition. Yep, I got that. No. I did not have it at all. I thought I knew. I thought I knew the tools, but I was so blinded about what was going on in my life that I didn't use any of those tools. And it wasn't until I was home, I was depressed, I was figuring things out, and wouldn't you know, I wasn't even really on social media. And then I was home doing nothing, going to start physical therapy. I was going to try and do something because I knew what I was doing wasn't working. So what I did was I got on TikTok and I was like, whoa. And at first I liked the TikTok shop. I was like, well, hey, I can go shopping. That works. And then I saw an MS video. And then actually I saw Brian. And then I met Brian. I talked to him on the phone. And next thing you know, I had this whole community that I didn't even realize that I needed. And boy, did I need it. And now I'm here with all these fine people. I mean, it's absolutely amazing the way that we've come. So again, an individual's perception is their reality. All of a sudden, was I still upset? Yeah. Was I still depressed on days? Definitely. Am I today? No, I'm not today. But on days, am I? Yeah, sometimes I still am. But I'm able to work through it. I'm able to call people who know. I didn't know anybody who had MS in my area. Not a person. I knew the little bit about, I'm a psychiatric nurse, so I knew about as much as I needed to pass the test in school. And that's all I knew about MS. And I've learned more from this community or from community than I ever have in my life. So exercise, as we know, will increase your mood or movement. Yeah, sorry, my notes keep saying exercise, but it's movement. Movement. It reduces also our isolation and that's the good thing about the technology world we live in. We talk about all the bad stuff about technology. Let's talk about something that's good. And what it can do is if you allow it to, it can bring people together for that common bond. That one person, that one day that needed you to tell you the right thing that you maybe didn't even know you needed to hear, but all of a sudden, the day looks a little bit brighter. The time is a little bit brighter. So I'm going to close because I could talk all day, especially about mental health. I definitely could. But for people living, and this is my closing statement, for people living with MS, movement and connection are not just nice extras. They are important, evidence-based practices in overall health and well-being. Every walk, every class, every conversation that we're having is a supportive connection. Today may be your supportive connection. Today's my supportive connection. And I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you. And you're right about a community you didn't want to be a part of, but you're sure glad that you are. And Damian Washington says it really well when he says, MS is a terrible way to meet wonderful people.
Yeah.
And case in point. So let's go ahead and get started with the conversation here. I would love to begin with each of you sharing a little bit about who you are beyond your diagnosis. I mean, when people hear that you live with MS, they may immediately think about limitations. But before we talk about MS movement and mindset, I'd love for each of you to tell us who you are outside of MS and what is something that MS has not been able to take away from you. What's one thing? Because MS takes a lot whenever it wants, however it wants. Summer, let's start with you. What hasn't MS taken?
Well, I am a wife. I'm a mother. I had 2 kids previous. My husband had 4 from his first, so I've got 4 bonus kids. I'm a mom of 6. I am a brand new grandma, which is weird because I'm 48, so that seems weird, but I'm accepting of it. But I also had worked really hard prior to this to become a physician, and it hasn't taken that from me. It has not taken my drive to do better, to serve others, to learn more every single day. That's something that MS cannot take away from me. It hasn't stopped me from going to concerts, and when we go to concerts, we take a manual chair instead of my power chair because, easier to get around. Well, for me, it is. My husband has to drag me everywhere, but I can actually get to all the parts, but I crowd surf in my manual chair. We personalize it. I have lights on the wheels. It doesn't take away that spark of fun and enjoyment and learning and being there for others in all the ways that I have not only just inherently am, but also have trained and learned how to do over many years, getting here.
Um, I say this a lot. For those that don't know that are watching at home, I have a podcast, MS Michigan Man 64, and I talk to a lot of people just about their journey with their MS. And I try to tell people all the time that it doesn't matter where you're at now with your MS. MS can't take away your accomplishments. Um, I won a state championship when I was 18 years old in high school playing hockey at Padua High School, and MS is never going to be able to take that away from me. That's an accomplishment that it doesn't matter how bad my MS gets, that's never going to get taken away from me. That memory and that accomplishment. I went to the University of Michigan, earned a scholarship to play football there, and won 4 Big Ten championships and went to 3 Rose Bowls and a Gator Bowl, and never lost to Ohio State. And MS and MS will never ever change that. It's never going to take that away. It's a fact. It's written, and it doesn't matter how bad my MS is going to get. MS is never going to take that. And every accomplishment that I have completed after my diagnosis. I had 2 beautiful kids, and MS is never going to take that away. They've grown up to be great adults right now, 27 and 24. And MS is never going to take away the fact that I was able to work with this fucking disease for 20 years. And I said, I'm going to make it as long as I can and just keep on pushing. And it wasn't easy, but you're going to accomplish a lot after diagnosis. You just got to keep on fighting the fight.
Nice. Wow. Um, I'm such a note taker. I'm taking notes on everybody's stories. Oh, and an individual's perception is their reality, right? So as I mentioned, I've been running marathons since the year 2000, and I was diagnosed with MS in 2006. And MS did try to take away my running because shortly after I was diagnosed, I started tripping and falling while running. And my neurologist said it's because I have foot drop. And my neurologist actually told me to lower my expectations. And that really pissed me off. But it also lit a fire under me because I really wanted to prove her wrong. So I went out on my own and I was able to find an orthotist, and he outfitted me with an ankle foot orthosis. And so that medical device has allowed me to keep on running. And so to date, I've completed 66 marathons since my diagnosis. So that's, in a sense, MS was trying to take something away from me, but I wanted to fight back. And now it has given me a lot more. And including these amazing, wonderful people up here on this panel. So MS hasn't taken my ability to try to adapt, to try to fight, and to try to keep pushing forward. And when I was diagnosed, my husband Brian and I, we were married just for I think at that point we were married for 18 months, and MS didn't take him away from me. And that's because I told Brian that the warranty expires after 1 year. So he's kind of stuck with me for the rest of our lives. So yeah, so I mean, MS, it fucking sucks. It really, really does. And I did get so depressed and I did have to go on medication. But when I look at this panel and look at everybody in the room, and I know all of our friends are out there around the world listening to us today, it's given me so much more. And so here you go, Adam.
Well, in case you guys forgot, I still haven't ran any marathons, and I could blame MS for that, but that one's just me personally. But MS took a lot from me, and I was 37 when I got diagnosed. I was working in a great career that I loved. I was an athlete. I was in really good shape. I was working out a lot. I was playing all kinds of sports, and it just took me out instantly. Within 5 months, I was in a wheelchair, diagnosed paraplegic. Like, I didn't know what my life was at that point. But What it did not take from me was my sense of humor, my drive, my stubbornness, like all of this stuff. Those things have gotten me to where I am today, sitting up here with these fabulous people. And I do as much as I can still. It's just different. We have to find a way to do it. We have to change how we do things, but I try not to let it affect me too much. And it's got me out here with all you, you know. Now I'm a public speaker. I am going around the country doing my talks, and that's something I would have never done before. So it opened new doors. It shut a lot of them, but it opened a lot too. And my sense of humor, I think, is the main thing. Like that, you know, I got a dark sense of humor, and that's helped me so much dealing with this. Like Jonathan talked about, like, you know, the depression and anxiety. Having a dark sense of humor helps that stuff a lot. It really does. And a lot of people don't like it, but I don't care. You know, what'd you say? What'd you say? Exactly. And the perception is your reality. So my reality is that shit's funny.
Okay, I could go down the line and say, yep, I agree, I agree. I listen to them, and everything that's being said is, I mean, I've lived all of it too. I love Cheryl's running thing, and yeah, you're full physical activity. Everybody's active. I was active in high school, and then I stopped, and then I got MS, and then I got active again. And I think the active part for me was trying to recover and adapt to the disorder. Um, so, you know, I know a lot of people can adapt in different ways, but my adaptation brought more physical activity for me. And now I'm competing on a national level in ballroom dancing, wearing high heel shoes. So I can do that. But then I look at Cheryl, who runs marathons, and say, oh my God, girl, I'm going to die if I think about it. But but that's okay. She got me active again. And so I gotta say that for MS, it did take a lot. I spent 3 years being the most horrible human you could possibly imagine. I was truly vile, and I fought the disorder, and something finally snapped and said, you know, this is not what life is about. You have to find your purpose. And everybody's purpose is different. And I believe that I have MS to develop the purpose that is put before me. And that's bringing us together, people with MS, to bring us together and focus on not the things that are taken from us, and not the things that are our struggles, but to look at the things we can do. You know, you wake up one day and suddenly you can't move your legs. Well, can you bat your eyes? Can you move a finger? It's focus on what you can do and then add to it. And that's kind of what it was for me when I lost my sight and my physical abilities. Every day it got worse until it didn't. And then every day I did one thing to make things better. Just one thing. If I found something on the floor to pick up, lint or whatever, and then it led up to where I finally took a dish to the sink by myself. So we got to focus on the things we can do. And I have found that perception you're talking about is reality. If your perception is negative, your world is going to be negative. I may be stepping out of line to put that straight out there, but in my life, I have found that is exactly the truth. So my choice is, if I want to have a good day, I have to make it that way myself. And if I can't do it myself, I need to reach out to my community. And that's where it starts. So I got to say that where MS has taken a lot of stuff, you got to learn one step at a time. You can't bite off more than you can chew, you know. So it is a crappy disease, and I cry a lot. And I don't think people understand what it's like a lot. And I'm glad I have a community that I can go to who does understand and who is fighting back, and we can lift each other. And that's what this is about.
Wow, well said. Well said from everybody. I feel like I should just drop the mic. Um, so you know, I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a nurse. Um, I I loved to ride motorcycles before I had MS. It was actually me and my wife's favorite thing to do. And then all of a sudden, and I can't say all of a sudden, it happened over a year. And I knew, I don't know if anybody else had that. I knew something was wrong. I knew that something was not going right, but I wanted to ignore it. I got both legs went numb, and I convinced myself it was a back problem. I would have my wife massage my back every night. I think it's getting better. I think it's getting better. Right? Until all of a sudden now I can't use my hands, and then I can barely walk. And then we finally go through the whole diagnosis. But it's the mental piece that I wasn't ready for. And that hindered all of my progress, I think, physically, because I wasn't allowing me to mentally grasp it, mentally prepare for it, mentally process it. I thought, I know this. I got this. We'll be fine. No, I didn't have any. I didn't have any of it. I didn't have any of it. But once I did start to work on myself, then I did start seeing things get better. So, I don't motorcycle ride anymore. It's true. I have a little 3-wheeler car that we go and we have a good time with. But just as I was getting diagnosed, me and my wife decided, it was during COVID, we were going to take up scuba diving. I was like, yeah, and it was really on a whim. We went snorkeling 5 years ago in Mexico and liked it. And I said, let's go get scuba diving up in Boston. That'll be fun. Totally different ball game there. So we went, and now I got diagnosed. So my biggest fear is, I've loved this. Is this going to be something I'm going to be able to do? Is this something I'm going to? And yeah, I do. I do it with help from my wife. We do it together. We take things that we can do together. And I have been able to do that. And I'm one class away from my master scuba diving certificates. And why did I want it? Just to prove to myself that I could get it, that I could do it. And I found a love now of photography and underwater photography that I never knew that I was ever going to need, and that I never knew that I ever wanted to have. But I attribute that to MS because MS gave me one thing. It made me focus on myself. I work for the state of Massachusetts. I oversee the psychiatric hospitals of Massachusetts. It's a pretty demanding job at times. I'm lucky that it is the Department of Mental Health, and they give me a lot of leeway, which is amazing. They let me, if I have to work from home, I can work from home. They do that. So I know a lot of people don't have that flexibility, so I am very grateful for that. But what it made me do is not just focus on my career. It made me focus on myself. It was almost like MS was my body telling me, you need to slow down and you need to focus on you. And then that's exactly what I've done. If I need to rest, I rest. And I'm not a person who likes to usually sit around and rest. But now, I kind of get into it. I'm going to cruise YouTube for a while. Oh, it's what we have to do. Or I plan things in the morning when I feel the best, and don't plan things for at night. All of my friends and family, no, you ain't getting me after 5 o'clock. That ain't happening. But if, I'm going to start hitting up the nursing homes for an 8 o'clock party, because, man, let me tell you, I'm ready to go at that time, right? If you want a karaoke party, I can do it at 8 in the morning. Let's do it, but not at night. So that all to just say that we adjust to what our life is and be willing to make those adjustments, and you'll find it fulfilling.
Yeah, no, again, well said, all of you. I think I personally, what MS has not taken away from me is my voice. I think all of us have something that we say, well, it's so much part of my identity, whether it's running or dancing, whatever that is. For me, it's always been my voice. Now, that said about MS, we all know it gives and takes and gives and takes. And I remember there was a time, people with MS get it. Those who don't. But there's something that happens sometimes to some of us when we get really emotional or have a lot of anxiety when we're trying to talk and we can't get the words to come out, and we're like tripping over ourselves. And the more that happens, the more we get worked up, and then the harder it is to talk, to the point where I'm in tears and I'm crying because this is my voice, right? MS shouldn't have the ability to take that from me, but sometimes it does. That said, when you've got it, rock it like you can, right? So let's share a little something, and believe me, I'm going to go somewhere with this. And I can't get no time to find myself. So potential sits in a jar on a high shelf that I can't reach as you preach what I should and should not do. But who are you to keep me reined, restrained? And I can't get no space, no place to spread my wings as the choir sings. I can't get no air to breathe. Can you conceive such a notion, such an emotion so intense it paralyzes? While hiding behind disguises of satisfaction. You guys do know that song, right? Satisfaction, and yeah, wrong song. So this is where I'm going with it. Satisfaction. What, for each of you, I'd like to hear. I want to know one of the most satisfying wins you have had when you've been battling a symptom of MS. Think back for a moment. For those who are maybe at home and struggling with MS and say, man, I'm really in a dark spot right now, perhaps these stories of the wins you found along the way. Tell us about a battle that you won that you're excited about.
Well, I actually, when I was diagnosed, I had very, very aggressive disease. In the first 18 months, I had transverse myelitis 3 times. The first time it was at my hip level and down. So within 12 hours, I couldn't move. My lower extremities couldn't feel my part of me. A lot of that persisted. Was able to walk again a little bit. Second time, it was kind of chest level down. And the third time, it was basically shoulder level, a little bit higher down. And, at that time, I was having SVT where my heart rate was in the 200s, and then it would drop and bottom out because of lesions in my brainstem. I perpetually nauseous, like all the time. I developed vocal cord dysfunction. I, again, couldn't walk, couldn't move. It took me a little over, altogether, I believe it was close to 6 to 9 months before I was able to go back to work. And during that time, there were lots of times I felt like I would just wanted to lay down and give up. That this was it. I'm done. I can't do anymore. But I didn't. And so the last time a transverse myelitis occurred, I had optic neuritis first and then transverse myelitis back to back. Started on my birthday, which is also July 4th. So it was like, a holiday that we all want to celebrate, right? So couldn't do that. Was in the hospital getting Plex treatment, all sorts of physical therapy. When I finally returned to work, it was just a little bit of time. It was like 4 hours a day for 3 days a week. And then gradually, and at the time I was still working as a hospitalist. So I was working my regular shift was 7 days on, 7 days off, 12 hours on at minimum at a time. And during the course of that time, I was able to get built back up to where I was able to return to there. Now, yeah, I was a wheelchair user at that point, but actually the biggest satisfaction was during that time, my husband and I also finished planning our wedding. We went, obviously wedding plans had to be changed because I was not a wheelchair user. I was not all of that when this started, but, able to get all of this done. My dad wheeled me down the aisle, I guess, technically. And then during our reception, my husband, with a lot of my help, because let's be real honest, it was mostly him still at that point, but he lifted me out of my chair and we had our first dance together. And it was absolutely the most wonderful thing that said, we can still find really good relationships, really healthy relationships, really supportive relationships. We can be that for someone else, even while we're going through this ourselves. And life can be really beautiful. It was really, really wonderful to get together with all of my friends and family. And, we had my parents dance to what would have been their first dance instead of me dance with my dad, because I wasn't going to be able to get up and dance much anyway, but they hadn't had a first dance. So it was really, really kind of satisfying after all of these years of hard work. And yes, going through a year and a half of just really rough times with MS, to be able to look at my friends and family and say, I love you all and you love me, and we are all here to celebrate. And this disease is not center stage tonight. What is center stage tonight is me and my now husband and our children and our families and all of that community and love that was just built into that room of over 200 people almost. Yeah, that was great.
So, 28 years, man, I've had so many ups and downs with this disease. I can go on all day. You know, when I first got diagnosed, 26 years old, I just got done running a triathlon and my vision started going. And I was 27 years old and I was scared to death. I just got done playing football in Michigan and, I had things going on with my body that I didn't understand. I didn't know what was going on. And I think the worst part about like the whole diagnosis thing was the mental part of it. I didn't realize how much it affects the mental part of it. And it took me 10 years to even figure that out. And every time I had it, I would have an episode. My goal, I was working for the state of Ohio. I needed 32 years to retire. I had 2 years in when I got diagnosed. And that I always I've always been a goal person and you get setbacks, but I always bounced back. And I always thought that, okay, is this it? Am I going to have to call it a career? And I would bounce back. You just don't know with this disease, there's so many ups and downs. When I lost my career, 2015, I thought my life was over, but the sun comes up. And I remembered this back when I played football at the University of Michigan. Bo Schembechler, one of the best coaches that ever coached the college game, he would always tell us, it doesn't matter what happens in life, the sun is always going to come up in the morning. And I always try to remember that, it doesn't matter what the hell MS does to me, tomorrow morning, the sun is still going to come up. I got to figure out a way to get there and figure this out. My eyesight would go out, come back in. I had to learn how to not panic during an attack, which is a hard thing to do because I know that, when it's taking your legs or your vision or your voice, I mean, you panic. But I always try to tell people, you got to try to stay calm as you can. And the sun is going to come up in the morning and you're going to bounce back. This disease can put you down, but you can always bounce back. It took my career in 2015. I spent 2 years in a bad depression and I found a way to get back into the workforce. I had to go out on my retirement from the state of Ohio, but I was still able to get back out there and work because I didn't quit. I was still able to contribute to society. And then I had other things that screwed me there. I worked for a freaking hospital system up in Cleveland, Metro Health Hospitals, and they had an elevator that would go out. For 4 years, I worked there. And I finally put up a stand to the hospital and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't come in with this elevator going out. I have MS. And they basically in 11 months said, screw you, Brian, you have MS. You got to still come into the office. We don't care that our elevator's not working. And I lost my job. That's not my fault. That's the system's fault. That's Metro Health Hospital's fault. That's not my fault. But I still bounced back from that. This disease is going to kick the shit out of you, but you got to have an attitude with it and you got to keep on fighting. I'm kind of rambling now, but I get excited about stuff like this. I mean, this disease sucks. I'm not gonna sit here and deny that, but it's not impossible to live with good supports, a good MS team, a good doctor. It's not impossible to live with, but it's a battle. It's a battle that I don't think a lot of people understand unless they have somebody that's directly affected by this disease. I know I didn't know a whole lot about this disease when I first got diagnosed when I was 27. I knew what MS was, but I didn't know what it was, until I started learning it. And I still see people like that now. I got family, I have friends that have known me for 28 years with this disease. They still don't understand. They don't ask me questions. I have family that don't ask questions. They know I have MS. Hey, how you doing? I'm doing okay. Oh, that's good. They see me for 15 minutes and they think I'm doing good. They don't see the other 23 and a half hours in the day. And I think a lot of us are like that. You know, we just want to be understood. I'll pass it on to you now. Sure.
Thanks for that.
Thank you for
Uh,
sharing all that. Let's hear from you, Cheryl, your win. What's
Yeah,
your
yeah. So I don't even want to get into family. So anyways, so satisfaction. So you're gonna think I'm weird, but so thank you.
bring it?
So I'm an accountant and I love numbers and just statistics. And like I said, I've been sitting here writing notes about everybody. So one thing in my job, I used to manage multi-million-dollar contracts and grants. And one of the things that worried me most about MS wasn't just my physical ability, but my ability to retain numbers and to do math and accounting and such. Um, and so on one trip, Brian and I, we were in Las Vegas and we got home, we got back to the hotel at around 3 o'clock in the morning. And we turned on the TV thinking we would just, watch reruns of Gilligan's Island. But we were flipping the channels and we saw this guy at a table, and he was at the head of the table reciting all of these numbers with all of these guys in suits. And we found out that it was Daniel Tammet reciting the digits of pi. And so I thought, wow, that would be a really cool exercise for me to start learning digits of pi, memorizing digits of pi. Well, I got up to 1,915 digits, memorizing pi. So, and I'm a very goal-oriented person, the way Brian here is. And my goal was actually to get up to 2,000 digits of pi. But with the way I remember things, I tell myself stories. And I was just getting so bored with myself that I kind of gave up on having to listen to my stories inside my head all the time. So that was one of my most satisfying achievements in my life with MS. And just another one really quickly, and again, you're going to think I'm weird, but my husband and I, we really love darts. Every year we watch the World Dart Championships in England. I mean, sorry, that was kind of funky feedback. Okay, good. Oh, okay. Sorry. So we subscribe and we like it's 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks of darts like all day and all night. And so Brian and I, we bought a dartboard. And so one of the biggest things in darts and achievement is hitting a 180, which is three treble 20s. And since I'm short and MS kind of short, I'm very short, MS affects for vertically challenged, MS affects the right side of my body. So when you're throwing a dart, being right-handed, you need to stabilize yourself with your right side. And that it's kind of hard for me when Brian and I are playing darts. But just 3 months ago, I achieved my first 180. And thank you. And while I have the microphone, the guy who calls the 180s in the World Dart Tournament Championships, he says, 180. And so my husband got to do that for me, and that was very, very gratifying.
Sounds very satisfying. Actually, well done.
3.1415962. That's as far as I can go. That's it. I know. 3.14. See, I knew you would catch that. So some of my biggest wins. I got some big ones, and one of the biggest is, as I mentioned before, like I'm a diagnosed paraplegic. Like in my chart, I'm a paraplegic. I'm not supposed to be walking. I am walking. I do walk. And it took me years to get back to that. And, my first doctor who I fired didn't think it would ever happen. He told me I was going to be in a wheelchair. He was right. He never said that I was going to get out of it. He never said I was going to walk again. He didn't think I would, but here I am walking. And, that's been one of my biggest battles that I've won because, my whole life, most of our lives are on our feet, and I lost that and I had to gain them back. And it took years and years. And, just 2 weeks ago, I did my MS walk and I walked the entire mile without using a stick. Like, it was hard and my body still hurts from it, but I did it. So going from being in a wheelchair to being able to walk an entire mile without my stick is just incredible. But the biggest battle that I've won wasn't the physical battle, it was the mental battle that Jonathan talked about because I had to really face myself when I got diagnosed and things got bad because, I went from being this big active guy in a career to being bedbound, to not being able to walk, not being able to drive. And I had to sit with myself and face myself and wonder what I was going to become if I came out of it or if I was going to come out of it. And I won that battle. And that is the most important battle there is.
I completely agree with that. 2006 was mine. That's when I was blind. It took me a year to fight back and get my physical abilities and my eyesight. I didn't drive for probably 9 or 10 months, something like this. Yeah, a long time. And so I was gonna say, I do have a funny story from that, but maybe I probably shouldn't put it on, global TV. But anyway, I learned very quickly that it was too soon to go behind the wheel. I'll just say that. So we went home and parked our keys for a few more months. But anyway, that was difficult because I woke up every day and I remember people said, tomorrow's going to be a better day. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. And God loved them all because tomorrow was definitely not a better day. I may have got one thing back, but then I had 3 other things that were messed up. And then I'd get another thing back and I'd have 5 things worse. And it did this every day for months. And I had no idea what was going to happen. At the time for me, my husband was deployed with the Navy also. He was going overseas post 9/11. They ended up not sending him because I did lose my sight and it was black. That was for quite a long time. As far as my sight, I really struggled with sight for almost the whole year. So being able to get that back, I do remember sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, am I going to die? Is this going to be the rest of my life?" They said MS. I'm like, well, no, this has got to be worse than MS because they said MS only attacks one side of your body at a time. I don't know who said that because I don't think that's right at all. But anyway, it was definitely attacking every side of my body. And so, yeah, it took about a year. So the fact that I started getting back was a huge deal. I do remember celebrating the first day that I saw that piece of lint on the floor that I could pick up. And I remember the first day that I sat at the table and actually got to hold a utensil to feed myself instead of not seeing food and using my hands to feed myself, which was horrible in itself. But then I got up to take my plate to the sink and it was like these beautiful little babies in the back of the room. They're so sweet. How they take their stepping and they're trying to keep their balance. So it's step, 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 and it's kind of clunky. That was me walking to the sink. And my husband saw me doing it. And he's like, let me help, let me help. And I was like, no, I have to do this all by myself. And I'm crying while I'm doing this because I'm seeing that I'm making progress. And I got my plate to the sink and I just stood there and bawled because I not only got to eat my food with a utensil and not poke eyes out and not have to use my hands, but I also carried my plate to the sink. So that was probably the first major win for me. And from that moment, I said, you know what, the sky's the limit. Thinking that starting with being able to walk your plate to the sink and eat with a utensil is a good place to start. It was mine. And I have grown leaps and bounds. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no limit as long as you push it wherever you can push it. If you have the ability to go that road today, take that road. If you can't go that road today, then take that road. If you can't take that road, go that way. Just keep trying until you find a road you can go down and then go down it, you know. So, but that was my win, and that's how I keep finding new wins is if I find roadblocks, I go around them. So, there you go.
Wow. I think my win is simply me. I think my win is the way that I am now. I found I was a very career driven person. When I say that, I mean like it was my whole life. It's all I thought about. And I feel MS has made me humble. MS has made me understanding. I'm definitely a better husband. I am definitely a better father. And I'm better at my job now, too. I'm a better leader at my job. And I feel that because I'm more understanding, that's what MS has given me. As far as the big win physically for me during that time, I told her I like to scuba dive, right? We like to scuba dive, and I was afraid that I'd never be able to do this again. That was like, it was in my mind. And there's a place up in Massachusetts called Rockport where people go scuba diving off the shore there. And we had planned right before I got my attack, we had planned to go there and go scuba diving off the shore. Well, all excited. And then I had my attack. And then I was destined that we were going to do that. I was like, I am going. That's it. I'm going to do it. And we did it. And I needed my wife's help the entire time who carried me in and out of pretty much that water. And there's a picture of me going like this with my head out of the water and snot's running down my face because I'm in the water. But I love that picture so much because I was so proud of myself that day. Now, whether that was completely safe, I think that could be debated. I think at this time I might have said, yeah, maybe you should have waited just a little bit longer for that. But I got out there and I did it. And it was quick. We came right back in because I was still fatigued and all of that. I think I slept the rest of the day. But that was my biggest win for physical.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't even compare to the mental win that this has given me.
Yeah.
And that's understanding.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. You know, so for these ups and downs and just getting through this life with MS, we need tools, right? And we're all familiar, all of us up here understand that there are a number of tools that we use in our toolbox. And it's always exciting when we get to tell each other, hey, look at this new tool that I found. Wow, amazing. And that's another way we can support each other about finding these wins, finding these new tools to use to get through days that are a little harder than they should be. Because there are days, though, when the tools we usually rely on stop working. Pain gets louder, sleep gets harder, confidence gets shaky. When you are in a season where MS feels heavier than usual, what do you do that gets you through the night, through the week, or maybe just the moment in front of you? Let's go round table again here to say, what is one thing you can do when it gets real hard that you do, a little tip, little trick, a little tool?
Hobbies. For me, it's hobbies. And I try to keep different hobbies for different times. So I like to ride my little three-wheel when I feel good and I can get out. I like to go scuba diving when I feel good and I can get out. But for the days that I can't, then I edit video and I edit photos on Lightroom and all that other stuff. I'm trying to learn technology. Hey, I'm not that great. But it keeps my mind busy. It stops the doom scrolling or all of that. Or I get on TikTok, honestly, and I find people that I want to talk to. And I find people that are live and I'll go in and I'll have a conversation. And I'll just use that time. Those are the tools that I use, is to find things that I can do for every part of my life. You know, I'm a person who likes to stay busy. So when I can't do something physically, I try and do stuff mentally. And just don't sit with myself in a bad way. But it's okay to sit with yourself in a good way, though. It's sometimes that time with yourself is important. And I'll sometimes use that. I'll use that just to think through, because we all need to prepare. We can't, we're not, at least me, I can't just get up and run and say, all right, like I used to go, oh yeah, I'll meet you down there at 5, definitely. And it's like 4:30. No, we need time to prepare for that. So I'll start to think of ways that of what I want to do, what I want to do next, and keep in the mindset that this is temporary and I'll feel better hopefully tomorrow. And if it's not tomorrow, then I'll wait for the next day. And I'll wait for the next day. And always have that positive outlook that that next day is going to come. And I'm going to feel better.
Okay, so for me, I do agree with you. I like the hobbies thing. I have lots of hobbies. I paint and I dance. I love dancing. Dancing's great. But when I'm having moments like maybe I can't really dance safely, or I can't get a hold of people when I pick up the phone and try and call, and I'm having issues with my eyes and can't scroll, pretty much when all my other tools I kind of can't use. And it's sad that I kind of make this my last tool, but it's faith. And I do want to bring faith up because faith is a unique thing because it's different for everybody. I have a religious faith and I love that. And I love that other people, maybe they do or maybe they don't have the same kind of faith. But I believe if you believe strongly enough in something, that is a tool that can help draw you over whatever situation you're in. You just have to believe in something that's bigger than you, that when you can't, it can help you get there. Even if you have to wait like an extra day or 2 days or 2 months or whatever it is, but having faith in the middle and believing in something that's going to get you there is, I think, an amazing tool. And that's always my fallback. I know some people say don't like have idol type things, but I like looking at my crosses. They give me peace. I might hold a cross now and again, but that's my way of getting through. It's a especially on the tough times. I mean, you pretty much run out of options. What's left? You can cry, but how do you keep positive is to look at that thing that you have faith in, that you believe in. So that's for me. But when it's not quite so bad, I love the hobby thing. I mean, I haven't painted in a while. I've been working on this. I wanted to bring this panel to everybody, and that was a very positive, uplifting thing that kept me going. So anyway.
One of my biggest tools that I use is rest. And it's not the guilty rest. It's not thinking I'm lazy because I'm resting. It's actually resting because that's as important as doing. And that's how I've had to learn that. And I think once I did finally learn that, it's the best thing that I did learn because now everything I do, I plan rest for it. If I'm going to go for a bike ride, I know I'm going to rest for an hour. If I'm going to take a shower, I know I'm going to rest for a half an hour. Everything is built in. So I know what it is, and I'm not mad at myself. I'm not thinking I'm lazy because I'm resting. I'm resting because I know I need to. And I think it's as important as the physical activity.
Absolutely.
Okay. Rest is a tool. Okay.
I think that's going to be my next new ink. You've inspired me, Adam. Rest is a
Rest
tool.
is a tool. Oh God. So for me, exercise has always been my tool for depression and for increasing strength so that I can get through all of those daily battles that I have with MS. But what I'm learning now, and I'm really trying hard to adapt, is that allowing myself permission to adjust. So I'm always training for something. I always have a race coming up, but some days are just really hard. And I'm going through a period right now where MS, my neuropathic pain, my electric shocks only used to affect my right arm, but now it has just recently spread throughout my entire body. And so I just lay in bed at night just wanting to fucking die because I'm in so much pain and I just can't sleep. So what I'm doing now is I'm allowing myself the opportunity to still exercise, but maybe adjust. So like I said, I'm always training for something. And if, for instance, I have running on my schedule, I'll still go to the gym, because going to the gym every day is part of my daily habit. I've been exercising almost every day for 30 years now. So I want to keep up with the habit. I still want to go out and train, but maybe I'll do something a little bit more gentler. Um, I'll still try to start out on the treadmill if it's a running day, but if I'm not finding a rhythm, then I'll move on to something else. I'll still get my cardio in. But at the end of the workout, I feel just so much better that I was able to find my own way to kick MS butt that day. And so that's what's important for me, is to keep up with the healthy habits of working out every day, but just adjusting. And that's something that I'm still trying to learn, because that's really hard, to allow yourself the opportunity to rest or to hold back. And so yeah, just that whole realization. It's a learning process, and I've had MS for 20 years now. So I'm still learning. I know it's a lifetime process.
With that, what you just said, I was just going to say 28 going on 29 years, my tools have changed so many times. I mean, like back early in my disease, my tool was my job. I mean, that was my motivation to get up every day. That was my incentive to keep on fighting. Then I had kids. That was my tool. I used them as tools to motivate me to keep going. I was in the gym every day, 5 days a week. I was in the gym, just keep my muscles moving. I used that as a tool. I like to golf. I used that as a tool. When golf became to a point where I couldn't golf anymore, I said, well, okay, I got to figure this out because I really enjoy golfing. So what did I do? I said, okay, well, I never played a video game before on my phone before in my life. But I'm looking through at my apps and they've got golf games on there. So I found an app on there that is most realistic to real golf that I can, and I play that. So it took away the real golf, but I said, okay, well, I'm going to figure that out. And I found another tool that I use just to I lose myself because I enjoy golf. Um, the podcast, I mean, that's one of my biggest tools right now. TikTok, that's a tool right now. Um, that was something that was unheard of, 20 years ago. I'm an older guy. I wasn't an internet person. I didn't have a Facebook page. I didn't have Instagram. I had none of that crap up until about 3 years ago. When I stopped working at Metro, I was sitting at home. I had nothing to do. My daughter's like, hey, Dad, why don't you get into podcasting? I have a communications degree from Michigan, television, radio, broadcasting degree. I never used it. And my daughter gave me that idea. I'm like, you know what? Now that's my tool. I did the research on it. I do a podcast once a week with Hale Media on YouTube, talking to MSers, and I use that as a tool. I meet people on TikTok. I met my artist on TikTok, Johnny. He did the art for the podcast. The singer, Amber Kay, I met her on TikTok. I mean, this is all my tools now. I met Tilly Elliott up in British Columbia, Canada on TikTok. I mean, all these people are part of my therapy, my tools to get through living with this disease. And like I said, it's changed a lot because my disease has changed. So some things didn't work anymore for me, and I had to find something else to take its place. So.
So, just like a lot of people, my tools have changed over time. The adjusting that Cheryl had mentioned is a big deal. I know for myself, I grew up in Utah. I grew up in right outside of Park City, Utah, and like up in the mountains, ski resort area, lots of skiing and snowboarding and outdoors all the time, rock climbing, all of that. Quite obviously, rock climbing is probably not going to happen anytime soon. But one of the things that I've learned to do is, hey, take sit ski lessons. Now in Ohio, that's there's not as much snow, but it's still, you know, you can still find it. I'm still in the process of looking for someone that might help me do tandem skydiving. You know, I used to do static line and then got to where I was doing my own independent dives. But, you know, you find that, so leaning on people, like I lean on my husband when I'm having a really bad time. He's a huge supporter for me, but even just being able to admit to myself, man, this really sucks. I'm having a bad day and I'm going to lay here and maybe today just grieve. Then tomorrow get back up and make plans to do the next thing. It's okay to take a day and be like, man, this really sucks. And that's actually a tool though, because it helps you get through and process the mental health side of it all, the bad side. If you don't let yourself feel it, you just shove it in a little box and then it builds up and builds up and builds up and comes out in negative ways. So sometimes the tool is even letting yourself feel bad for a little while and getting through that and leaning on your friends, you know, that you've met via social media in real life, spouses, family, whatever it may be, on those really rough times.
Yeah.
But if you don't let yourself feel those bad times, it becomes, not only does it build up and build up and build up, but, you know, Brian had mentioned, you know, family not talking to him. It builds up the perception to everyone around you that I'm perfectly fine, everything's good. And you end up isolating yourself even more by not taking the time to say, you know what, today's a bad day. I'm going to lay down and I'm going to allow myself to feel this bad day for what it is, a bad day.
Yeah, no, right. So that's the thing and that's just the truth of life. Whether you have MS or you don't, there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days. And here's the thing, it is so easy. I'll say not so easy. It's much easier to give other people grace, but to give yourself grace, it's a whole different story. And especially when you have MS, especially when there's so much you want to do, but then you can't. I will share, this is one of my tools. It's a spoon. And so there are many of us who are familiar with spoon theory, but those who are not, a woman with a chronic condition with chronic fatigue sits down with her friend who says, you've got fatigue, so you're tired, take a nap. She's like, no, you don't get it. And they're at a diner and she asks the waitress to bring over a bunch of spoons. She lays out all the spoons on the table right in front of both of them, pulls down one, have to take a shower. Oh, have to wash my hair. Pull down another spoon. She showed all these small tasks and how you have to take each of these spoons away. And by the end of the day, not by the end of the day, by the end of the middle of the afternoon, there are no spoons left. And so that is such a powerful metaphor for those of us who do live with chronic fatigue, to say that you only have so many spoons. You only have so much energy in a day. And for, I feel like all of us who are here who used to be able to go all night, type A, we're going, you can't stop us. And then MS says, hi. You're like, you know, this is a good reminder. And sometimes I will actually, you said you find comfort sometimes with your crosses, right? For me, you can see me sitting here and just like rubbing the spoon, reminding myself, right? Reminding myself that you only have so much in a day and whatever you have, and that's enough. Tomorrow is what for you didn't get done today. And so I think that's been helpful for me and for so many people. So another question, and this, whoever just wants to raise their hand to take this one, because this is something I've wrestled with a lot. How do you tell the difference between pushing through something that's hard or pushing too hard? Ooh, right? Who wants to take it?
I've always had a hard time distinguishing between that. I mean, because my mentality, like playing football in Michigan, you get pushed to the max. I mean, you're tired and you get pushed harder. So I've always had that mentality. You know, and it was 5 years after after playing, I got diagnosed, and I still had that push, and I still do. I don't know when to shut it down sometimes. I have that problem all the time. But yeah, here at I know.
Oh yeah. I my whole life I've always tended to learn things the hard way, so MS wasn't any different. Um, but I think there's something in that too, because you don't know what your limits are until you blow past them. So I did that a lot. And when I was trying to walk again and I was doing yoga and I was trying to go to the gym and I was doing all this and I was like, oh man, I'm going to do like 3, 4 days in a row. I did. And then I had to do nothing for 2 weeks. Well, I learned, you know, I walked a quarter mile and I was like, yeah, that felt great. I couldn't do anything for 4 days. I learned. So I think you do need to know how to push through, but I think sometimes you do need to actually go past that line because then that tells you where you are. It gives you a spot and you're like, as long as you learn from it. Luckily I did learn from that. I didn't keep going across that line. But as the years went on and my, physical health got better, my mental health got better, that line keeps moving, keeps changing, and keeps getting further and further. And your fatigue level, like we always talk about fatigue, you can drop that back too. So like as this line's getting bigger, you can do more, your fatigue level's lowering, but you had to push those limits.
I want to add to that. I completely agree with that. And that's how I kind of have managed to move forward is I know that my limit last time was here. So this time I have to at least go there and try and make it one step more or whatever it is. And just, you don't really know what your limits are. You don't know what the outside edge is until you've crossed it. The whole thing is understanding that you have crossed it and not keep going. And the way that I know that I have crossed a line and not to keep going anymore is that my husband will yank me off the ladder and say, you've gone too far, get down. Or I'll have my best friend say, no, I think you just need to rest this afternoon. I mean, you'll have people, if you let your community, your family know how you're doing and you vocalize how you're doing, don't shut people out. Let them know how you're doing on a regular basis. Over time, everybody will start to recognize patterns, those who care about you, and they will help pull you off the ladder, make you sit your butt in a chair, even if you don't want to. I mean, I get put in timeout a lot. And I'm like, wait, no, I haven't finished this yet. No, you need to sit down. I'm like, no, I don't want to. I'm a little kid. I'll stop my feet and fight it. But the whole thing is you're not going to know your boundary unless you cross over it. And you have to touch that fire and realize, ooh, I went a little too far. And the other thing that I learned too is that yesterday I went this far and I expect to at least get this far today. Sometimes you don't even get that far because every day is different. So don't shut yourself out. Don't shun yourself. Don't put yourself down. If you can't make the same limit today that you made yesterday, don't be upset with yourself. It's going to happen. It happens to people who don't have MS. So don't kick yourself and understand that each day just try and hit a limit and sometimes allow yourself to cross it so you know what your true borders are.
Right.
I find myself, and I say it a lot, I'm an emotionally charged person. Like there's no middle ground with me. I'm either really happy or I'm really sad. And both will cause fatigue. And it's getting to realize, like, if something good happens, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then, an hour later, I'm all tired. And I'm like, well, that wasn't worth it. But and it's finding how to live in those parameters, which I'm going to be honest with you, I am not good at. I am still either very, very high or very, very low. There's still no middle ground. And sometimes I'll be very high and happy in this, knowing what it's going to do. But I'm having that kind of a day and I'm having that good of a day. So you know what? We're going to have a 2-hour great day and then I'm going to go to bed. And I'm okay with that because that was an awesome 2 hours.
Yes. Yes.
So it's all about finding balance. I think it's balance and sometimes just recognizing when there's not a balance, and it's not always bad though. It's not always bad.
Let's talk about reminders that we give ourselves. I want to know here, and I know a couple of yours, but a personal mantra, a personal, like a saying, I think you just said when you were sharing earlier. But let's go around. If there's like a one-liner or maybe something that you tell yourself every day, or maybe you just keep in your back pocket for when you really freaking need it. Let's hear one-liner.
Mine is very scriptural. It is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I will repeat that over and over and over again until I get it. So
Mine is simple. It's just unstoppable. I've always had that. I got it tattooed on me. It was I did a fundraiser event tattoo and I got unstoppable tattooed on me. And that's just what I use, keep going. Because MS puts a lot of things in your way and you have to avoid them or go through them, but just don't ever stop. And that's what I use.
My mantra is I do what I can and I never give up. And I've had that from day one. Well, ever since my neurologist told me to lower my expectations. And but even then though, I've always had that mantra, but the meaning has evolved over time. So before, when I was younger, I was more stubborn, and it just meant that um, MS is not going to dictate my life. I'm going to do whatever I want, even if it kills me. But now with age and with MS slowing me down, my mantra means I'm still going to try hard things, but now I need to be a little bit more realistic.
I got a couple. I say on my podcast a lot, MSers figure shit out, which I think we do. I know, everybody has their own way of customizing things, but I think that sooner or later you're going, and I always say that MSers figure shit out. And then I always do the classic one, fuck you, MS, when I beat MS. When I do something that, I'm not supposed to be able to do and I accomplish it, I go F you, MS. So.
So mine, I don't really know that it's a particular mantra per se, but more of just I remind myself that I've got this. I got myself through my life. I've had, even prior to MS, I've had a lot of things go on in my life that are set up stumbling blocks and all sorts of difficulties for many people, right? And I've been able to get through every single one of them. MS is just the latest in the line of crap that we all deal with, and the reality is if I could survive anything I've survived before MS, I can survive MS and it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be okay. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. So words are so powerful, as you just heard. Anyone who's not in the room and who's listening online, the power of words that we're sharing here today. For me personally, I can say mine is because I can. For those of you who don't know the story about that, that's the documentary that we're going to be releasing global watch party later today. But it was something that changed my life. Words can change a person's life. I'll give you just a quick story about it. It's that when I turned 45, my friend since the age of 3 called me. It's like, hey, so happy birthday. I'm going to run the Philadelphia Marathon. I'm going to do it in your honor. I said, oh, that's amazing. Crying, wipe the tears. That's amazing, but why? And she just said, because I can. So I went online, looked at the Philadelphia Marathon weekend website. Marathon? Hell no. I had been running since my diagnosis. Half marathon, forget it. Not even a half for me. But then there was an 8K. So quick math, 5 miles. Could I do that? That was the day I put back on my running shoes for the first time since I was diagnosed. And I started training. Those 3 words. She said, because I can. So I asked myself, well, what can I do? Because we can all do something. So I hope that all of the words that have been shared up here on this panel today have really resonated and that people have found hope in these words and found a way to trust again. Because that's the next thing I'd like to talk about and hear from the panel about is trust. Because after diagnosis, symptoms, setbacks, or pain, many of us lose confidence with our bodies. And so for me, I guess I'd like to know, how do we begin to rebuild trust in a body that often we feel has betrayed us. How can we trust that again? Do you guys have any examples or any tips for someone who's wrestling with this right now? Where do you start?
So I don't stop doing what I want to do. Like if you follow me on Facebook or TikTok or anything like that, I go up to the lake a lot. I go fishing, and I even though I know that my legs might give out, I'll do whatever I want to do. I trust them, and if they fail, they fail. Then I get back up. Because I mean, I can't think about it. I'm just like, okay, well, I can stand up, so I got to trust to see where they can take me, and if they fail, then I get back up. And you just got to keep on getting back up.
I love that.
I would go right along with that. I'd say there's some things I've had to learn that, the reality is I can't trust my body to do certain things anymore. Like when I was a hospitalist, I could intubate patients, I could do central lines, I could do chest tubes. I can't trust my body to do that anymore. I just don't have the fine motor skills right now. Now, notice I said right now.
Yes.
And there's a reason I say that. I can do things to help rebuild those skills. It's been 7 years. I still can't walk. I went from walking 20 feet to 50 feet. I look like I'm drunk and I fall a lot. But you know what? That's 50 feet. That's 30 feet more than it was before. When it comes to right now, I cannot trust my body to put a central line in a patient, not safely for that patient. Oh my gosh, that would be awful, right? But what I do in the meantime is I have been doing a lot of things with occupational therapy type things to help start trying to bring some coordination back. Maybe I'll never get it back fully, but I keep looking at it. I can't trust it right now. I might be able to trust it with more work, with more going at it. And if I'm not, that's okay. I have transitioned from being a hospitalist to doing primary care. And while I miss the acute care and miss doing those things, you know what? I also recognize that I've built a lot more relationships with my patients and with their families, and the things that I didn't realize that I loved so much about medicine, I find that I love them even more in this position. So the things that I've lost, I've gained a lot. So that's why I've learned to trust my body, is also recognize not only the right now, but also the what else have I gained that I didn't realize that I was missing out on before MS.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Mhm.
So like Brian, I don't think about it. I just plow through. But I I think with just doing having that habit of doing something every day, that in turn builds trust within your body. And I have suffered so many times at marathons, but I'm still able to get to the finish line. I mean, it might not look pretty. I might have bloody knees, or um, I might be dragging my leg a little bit more, but just somehow with plowing onward and doing something every day, you learn your body and you learn to trust it. And that's just an experiment that, everybody has to go through throughout their life with MS. And so, I mean, even that evolves because I'm now at the position where running marathons is just, it's causing a lot more pain because I have now left side weakness and I'm starting to feel the effects of foot drop in my good left leg. Um, so what I'm doing is I'm transitioning to shorter distances like 5Ks, 10Ks, and half marathons. But I still have that enjoyment because running is my joy. So just, going through life and through life with MS, you evolve and things change. And that's what we've all been talking about up here, is that how you kind of have to roll with it. So it's weird because I'm saying plow through it, but roll with it at the same time.
Yeah, I lost that trust in my body early on in the diagnosis because it was not doing anything I wanted it to. So I completely lost that trust. I still kind of don't have it because I'm, as much as I am walking now and can walk, like I'm still basically numb from the chest down. And my legs, my brain doesn't know where my legs are in space. So that trust never really came back. But what got me there, and what I think is the most important thing, is you have to not be afraid to fail. You have to not be afraid to fall. You have to be not be afraid to try. That's what got me where I was, is when I first learned how to walk, I just threw my foot in front of the other one and just hoped for the best. Like I hope it landed. I didn't know if it landed because I couldn't feel it. I just hoped. If it did, I did it with the next foot. If I didn't, I fell on the ground and I got back up and I did it again. So I think that's a lot of people with MS. They are scared to try to do things that they don't think they can do. But you don't know what you can do until you try it. And that's all I've been doing for the last 5 years is trying things, trying to walk, trying to ride a bike, trying to walk with this, like all things I've been able to do. But at first it wasn't pretty and I wasn't able to do it, but I wasn't afraid. And I think that's helped me get some trust into my body, even though I know I still can't trust it, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. I resonate with that throwing the leg in front of you thing. And my dance instructor would probably smack me if he knew that I do that sometimes on the dance floor. And sometimes my brain completely forgets the entire dance routine while I'm at competition. And I just have to wing it. I mean, you do things. You just put yourself out there. You just do things. I think that plow through, yes. Fall on your ass, yes.
Mhm.
Get up, brush it off, do it again.
Yes.
What is that? Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yes, it is.
And you may do that many times in one day, in 1 hour. It doesn't matter. And it may get frustrating and you may find yourself crying about it and decide that you need to today is so effed up that it just needs to be too effed up. Just park yourself on the couch and wait till tomorrow, since it's but the thing is, as long as you know that you're doing it, you're making an active role in your own life. Actively participate in your own life. Actively participate in reaching whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's going to be ugly at first. It may get even messier in the middle, but hopefully by the end, it's going to be something real beautiful and something to be proud of. And you should be proud of it no matter what it looks like because you're doing it. And at the end of the day, that's all it's about. I can't tell you how many times I have gone to do something and it is absolutely not what I wanted it to be, but it did it. And that's what you got to remember. You did it. Celebrate what you can do and just do it, even if you end up on your butt.
Agreed. I have another saying that I like to say a lot, which is don't be realistic, but don't give up on your dreams. And I think whether you have MS or you don't have MS, we still need to be realistic and don't give up on our dreams. I'm not going to be a marathon runner. I wasn't going to be a marathon runner before. That was right. So that wouldn't be a dream that I would have. But Adam's going to be. But things like that, and sense of humor, that's part of it too. It's all part of it. And having trusting our bodies is something that we'll always struggle with. Am I going to be able to do that? Especially if you're pushing that envelope. If you're pushing that envelope, you're always going to have that question, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to do this? And you'll never know until you try.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're realistic, don't give up on your dreams. Blind faith. Yep.
So there's a couple of things that I want to get to humor because I think that is a big thing, and it's a fun thing that I want to talk about in a moment. But before that, I do want to pause. I want you just to look up here at this MS Rising logo. when Phoebe was telling me about MS Rising, she was explaining this beautiful logo of hers that she designed. Um, do you want to go ahead and just tell everyone, because the way you explained it to me, it speaks to when we're talking about this try again, that there's an ebb and a flow to this disease. And what we see here really speaks to where we all find ourselves at one point or another.
Right. So that's what MS Rising is about. With MS, you think of it as a circle here. You'll see where the top is and how it kind of rolls around. That's where we're on the wave crest. We're at our high moments. And then you'll see the bottom, and that's where the law, where the wave kind of putters out, and so to say. And if you look at it, where the wave crest is at, kind of is really close to where the bottom part is. Realize that the bottom part is your lowest low, and the crest is your highest high. But the majority of the circle around it is what, 85% of it? Majority of us are going to spend our time in the middle of our greatest high and our greatest low.
Mhm.
Those are the times where we're really connecting with people. Those are the points where we're actively involved in our lives. We're actively doing what we need to live our best life. But I love the whole wave thing because no matter where you're at, you're going to have somebody in front of you and somebody behind you. So if you have somebody in front of you and you're having issues, you can reach your hand forward and grab their hand and they'll help pull you up over the crest. If you're on your way up and you have your hand behind you, you have somebody who's having a harder day than you are, you can put your hand back and grab their hand and try to help pull them up. It's all about where we are in our walks and what ability we have or are willing to offer to our community. And I really feel strongly that people in our community don't want to see other members of our community in a tough place, which is what brought us together. I explained this as this MS Rising is about taking our strengths and sharing it with somebody who's in a lower place than we are. And when we're in a lower place than we are now, we're going to be looking for somebody else further along than us to help us because none of us are going to be stuck at the top. It's always like the wave going to come down. And we have to be okay with that. I mean, it's like that for anybody, whether you have MS or not. But I just love the picture that it made for MS Rising because it helps us to rise above. We're rising above our misconceptions. We're rising above the things that other people tell us. What was it your doctor said? Lower your expectations. I consequently was told that I was going to be in a wheelchair in X number of months if I didn't take this certain medication. And I didn't want that medication. I didn't take it. I didn't end up in that wheelchair. And now I'm dancing in heels. So, I mean, I don't think he knew what he was talking about then either. So, but the whole thing is, we're rising above it. We are bigger than this. It doesn't matter how low MS makes us feel. We are bigger than this. We're going to rise above it. We're going to live our best lives as long as we're open. Our hearts are open to sharing with other people and allowing other people to be invested in our lives as we're invested in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of it.
Yeah. Well, and I love that, just again, the whole visual and everything that it says to us. I feel like today we've really talked about our wins, our losses. I want to go back to the humor. I want to hear some funny stories. I want to hear, because MS like as tough and as rough it is, there can be some really funny things that happen. And who has a funny story to share?
Can I just say only the cool people pee themselves? That's it.
Start with that.
He in your pants was cool. Called me Miles Davis. Couldn't help it. That's the only thing I thought of. I have kind of a funny story. I mean, it's like I said, I have a dark sense of humor, so it might not be that funny. But I was walking into a support group, and just day before my birthday, almost turning 44, and I was like, all Yeah, we're doing all right. And that piece of pavement jumped up and threw me to the ground. You know, it just tossed me. And I'm a really good faller. Like I've learned how to fall. I practice all the time, and I've gotten really good at falling. This one, this one, I didn't. I did not fall gracefully. I got slammed to the ground. So I know you're trying to find where the humor is with this, but we'll get there eventually. But so I fell to the ground, and I was all bloody, and my knuckle was all messed up, and this hand I broke a finger on this hand, and I'm all bloody. I'm going to a support group. So it was all a bunch of people with MS. So they understood, and they came up and they didn't immediately try to grab me and pull me up. They asked if I was okay. And I said, I'm fine. I just need some time. I just need to get up on my own. And I did. And I got in there and I was like, man, my fingers, this is bad. And then I realized that my rib was hurting. And I was like, oh no, this is not good. And then I went through the process. This is where the funny part comes in. So I went through the process. I was like, okay, I fell on the ground. There was nothing on the ground that would have like protruded and hit me in the rib to hurt my rib. So I basically broke my finger on my rib and broke my rib on my finger.
It takes talent.
See, that's funny, right? So when I put it together like a couple weeks later because I was like, how did this happen? And then I realized like these two fingers, ones that got messed up. This is the one that got broken, and my rib got broke. And I was like, oh, that's how it happened.
I got a lot of them, but I'll give you a good one. This one just happened a few years ago. My wife and I have a place up in Port Clinton, and I had a jet ski. So I was out on the jet ski, and if you get thrown off the jet ski, you got to get back up on it, right? Well, I had a hard time getting back up on it because of my MS. I couldn't get back up on my fucking jet ski. So my daughter, she went back into the marina, and she saw my wife, and my wife got one of my buddies to come out in his pontoon boat to pick me up. Actually, he wasn't my buddy. I haven't even met this guy yet. So, because we were pretty new up to the place where we were at. So I'm out in the water, just floating out there with my life jacket on. I'm not panicked or anything. And I see this boat coming up, and I knew who the guy was, but I hadn't talked to him yet. Well, he bought this pontoon up there that the Ohio State guy, the Bucknut, owned. And it was a Bucknut pontoon, Ohio State all over it. And, he comes up to me and he goes, hey, you need some help? You want me to get you up out of that lake or out of the river? And I looked at him and go, not with that fucking boat. So, but I laughed about it, and he helped me up, but I mean, I couldn't get back up on my jet ski because of my MS, so it was kind of funny. But I got a lot of them. I fall all the time. My wife has laughed at me many, many times.
We have to laugh at each other when we fall, right?
Yeah.
So a few years ago, my husband and I went to Dominican Republic. We went to an adults only, all-inclusive resort, beautiful. Really cool things happened there. Like I'm standing in the pool and I'm like, this is the first time I've stood up without assistance because it's the saltwater pool that, buoys you up. That was really cool. But what was funny is, so at these resorts, a lot of times they do like events where a bunch of the guests there will go to the beach and play a game together, and somebody could win the prize. And it's usually just like a silly hat or something like that. But the event that they decided to pull us out for was on the beach. I'm in my manual wheelchair because I'm not going to fly with this. This one's too expensive to fly with, but airlines aren't the best with mobility aids. But anyway, so one of the workers drags me out onto the beach, and the worker's helping me on my part. And it's this thing where you stand with your partner, one of you on one side, the other on the other side. And there's a DJ, they're playing music, and they tell you do these things like spin in circles. You have a water balloon, you're tossing it back and forth. You get further and further apart. Whoever makes it to the end without the broken balloon is the winner. Well, I had to do this. First of all, you can't spin me around in the sand. That's not going to happen. So the worker would spin and then let me toss. I don't know. But so he does get me backwards and I'm tossed over my head. And so manual wheelchair sitting there with the balloon, I grab it between my legs. First of all, understand that even before MS, I could not throw anything any length at all. So I have this water balloon and I'm bent over with it between my legs and I toss it over and I toss it up and over and I go backwards. Fall over backwards on my back, slide out of the wheelchair. Everybody comes running up. They're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. My husband standing 30 feet away from me just starts busting out laughing. I'm laying on the ground in my bathing suit with sand going up everywhere it's not supposed to go. And I can't move myself. And I just start laughing and laughing and laughing because it was the fight. We won, by the way. But
Okay, this is seriously, this is a good one. This was during the year, my darkest year, and I was up walking at this point, but obviously I didn't have a lot of control over it. There were two things that kind of happened in really close succession to each other. The first one was the phone rang, and I went running to get the phone, and I did get the phone before the person hung up, but somehow I ended up over the arm of the couch, flipped over in the corner. And so I'm sitting here like this little thing in the corner, and my husband comes running in. He's like, where are you at? Oh, way in the corner. But the funnier one is when the doorbell rang and I was probably racing my kids to answer the door. And so I took off running and somebody opened the front door and I ended up running through the front yard. My husband's in the back of the room doing this now, but I went running through the front yard and I just couldn't stop myself. And there was a palm tree in the middle of the front yard and I wrapped my arm out like this and it slung me around and I came back and took out like the garden gnome, I think it was a rabbit or something, and smacked into the doorbell. I mean, that was really cool. The person was at the door for all of this. They're just somebody standing at the door as I'm doing. But, I just didn't have the control over my legs. I mean, and I just learned that you just need to laugh about things like that. And I was like, if somebody had recorded that, I probably would have laughed so hard I peed myself. But, that's old news for me too. But
I guess the funniest things, and it happens to me quite often, is because of the way my feet are, I can't drive with shoes on. I'm sitting here right now without shoes on. No matter what, I don't have shoes on. So I am one to constantly leave the house and get all the way to where I have to go, and then look down and notice that I bring any shoes with me to go anywhere. I don't know how many times I've had to pull over and get some shoes. I'll just walk in anywhere barefoot and I'll just say I need to buy shoes. And at first you think you're embarrassed a little bit. Now I just announce it. I'm like, listen, hey, I'm coming in here. I got to buy some shoes at DSW or whatever it is. And I get my shoes and on I go. And I've done that a lot. I mean, a lot. Tons. So for the first 2 years, I couldn't wear anything but Crocs. And I hated Crocs. I couldn't stand them. But over time, I've been able to get to the slip-on shoes. But still, I can't drive with shoes on. It just doesn't have it. And I'm a forgetful person even before MS. I'm just forgetful, and I just leave like a pair of shoes. You think that would be. Well, what? You're right with that. But then you use the pair of shoes that are in your car. And then you go back in the house and you forget to put ones in, and then you're in this. It's a vicious cycle, man.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the only story I have is not as funny as any of these. But for me, my symptom that led to my diagnosis was optic neuritis. And so complete loss of vision in my right eye. And so soon after I got out of the hospital and all the things, I was at home and I'm looking in the mirror. I enjoy, usually women have they have to have lipstick or have to have eyeliner. What's their thing? Mine is eyeliner. So when you can't see out of this eye, trying to do that doesn't work well. And so I did the best that I could. I went downstairs and Jack, my husband, looks at me. He's like, hi. I'm like, what? I understand why people get permanent makeup because man, that would just cure all this. I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. But Anyway, the point of it is that as hard as MS is, and as much as it sucks, there's humor to find along the way. There's joy, there is love, there is amazing lessons and beautiful relationships and friendships that you can find in it. And again, not a community we ever wanted to be part of, but so honored to be part of it. And I guess with that, I'd just like to say thank you so much to the entire panel for coming across the country to be with us to share this talk today. For Phoebe for putting this together, thank you so much. How special this day has been. How beautiful these conversations, how powerful these words. Is there anything that you started this? Do you want to close out and
I want to say something. Is it on? Hello.
there?
Okay, so yeah, I want to say thank you to all of you who are visiting us from the virtual world. And I want to say thank you to everybody here. And most importantly, I do want to say thank you to my entire panel who has come here from literally the corners of the United States. And so it's been an absolute blessing. I feel like I've got the dream team, the A team, whatever you want to call it. I feel like we were very well matched for this day. I really want to lift a super thank you to Allie. She's kind of been, I call her, yeah, our pacekeeper, pacemaker, what is it, playmaker, whatever it is, you know, she's like our rock star, superstar. And I definitely want to thank Jonathan because, you know, when I was putting this together, I was having a hard time with some of the articulation, and I had a few people that come forward and actually put my vision to words. And I was like, wow, you really got that nailed. And I think Jonathan did too, especially with, it took me a while to realize that MS Rising really focuses on the mental and emotional aspects of MS. And it really helped me also to realize that that's one of the parts I feel like is lacking in information for us. I think it's a time where we're starting to build more of it. So I think that this was a perfect timing for this. And I think that what Jonathan brought to the table was absolutely awesome. And that perception, I believe it. I sit there and I have like a list of intentions, and I want to believe it. So I write it as an intention and want to believe it. So you just kind of keep putting it in front of you. And that's how you make things happen. That's how I made this happen. It became an intention, and I just started thinking positive about it and just made it a purposeful thing.
Mhm.
And just, you have to actively participate in it one step at a time. That's all you can do. And remember, one step.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank
just
you so
thank
much.
you. Thank you, everybody. This was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Phoebe. Well, I think that's a wrap.
You want to ask really quick? You can do that now. There is food in the back corner. Definitely eat.
Oh.
Turn it back on, but we're technically we can say goodbye to our audience that's virtual. We love you. Lots of kisses and loves. But what I was saying was, if you didn't get your goodie bag, everybody gets a goodie bag. There's food in the corner. Eat food, lots of food. There's drinks in the back. If you have questions, any questions that are asked of our online people, we didn't mention this before, and they're hasta la vista now, but we are going to answer every question at where whatever questions came in. If there were questions that came in, we'll make sure that we get them answered and posted online. And this is recorded, and we will be uploading this to YouTube, so people will be able to share it, watch it again. If you didn't get something, you want to see it again, you want to laugh at what somebody said, or somebody looked weird or whatever, but you know, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's so true.
Brush up on the brilliance that we see.
Oh, yes, yes, that's the word. Yes.